We don't blame you if you think to yourself, here we go again, Motor Trend is about to laud yet another Porsche 911 GT3. We also won't apologize, because few cars deserve the consistency of praise given to the latest 911 GT3 range, from the standard GT3 that won our 2022 Performance Vehicle of the Year award to the next level, and then some 2023 911 GT3 RS we drove for the first time recently. Now we've taken a 2022 Porsche 911 GT3 Touring with a manual transmission to our testing grounds to see how the least extreme version gets on with its job. What's the difference? Anyone who follows Porsche with even just one lazy eye open knows the German carmaker has mastered the art of maximizing its model lineup, namely by offering enough variants of a car like the 911 to comprise an automotive Rorschach test. Have a vision of what your ultimate 911 looks like. No problem, chances are good Porsche builds it. At least, it's easy to imagine them saying something like this. You don't like the wing? No problem. Check the touring package box on your order form and, poof, it's gone like Kaiser Soze. Now stop whining and write the check, doctor. The rear wing delete is the only significant performance-altering change between the GT3 and GT3 Touring models, thanks to the aerodynamic downforce lost by replacing the large, fixed wing with an active rear spoiler and a unique engine cover grille. Other stuff in the Touring pack includes various two-tone leather interior options. Regular GTs only offer black, silver window trim versus black, and the lower front fascia painted the same color as the rest of the body, again, offered only in black on the normal version. Mechanically, Porsche provides its excellent, industry-leading positive action 6-speed manual gearbox as standard, but since the 7-speed twin-clutch PDK is a no-cost option, you may as well consider it standard fare, too. Technically, this is the opposite of how Porsche equips the standard version, which comes with the PDK unless you choose the manual. No surprise, the Porsche 911 GT3 Touring's base price of $164,150 is identical to that of the regular GT3. And, so what? Good question. A massive chunk of the normal 911 GT3's impressive racetrack performance comes from its aero. Depending upon its wing settings, it makes up to 317 pounds of downforce at 125 miles per hour, and up to a max figure of 772 pounds at its 197 mile per hour top speed. So, considering Motor Trend's typical testing doesn't include road course running, we wondered how much of an impact the GT3 Touring's relative lack of downforce would have. Indeed, at 125 miles per hour the Touring makes only 33 pounds of downforce, and just 88 pounds at its slightly faster top speed of 199 miles per hour. In other words, the two cars are galaxies apart in aero performance. We previously tested the 2022 Porsche 911 GT3 with a PDK twin-clutch 7-speed gearbox, but it's the manual transmission version that won our 2022 Petit Trophy that we'll compare against the 2022 GT3 Touring model. With their identical 4.0-litre normally aspirated flat-six engines producing 502 horsepower and 346 pounds-to-foot of torque, the regular GT3 accelerated slightly quicker to 60 miles per hour, 3.4 seconds versus 3.7, and through the quarter mile, 11.4 seconds at 126.0 miles per hour versus 11.7 at 123.6. This result is somewhat curious, considering the extra downforce of the standard version shouldn't afford it an advantage in these tests and, in the quarter mile, perhaps produce more aero drag. As we didn't test the two cars on the same day in identical conditions, we put the variance down to atmospheric and surface conditions, as well as the Touring tipping our scales at 3,252 pounds compared to the winged GT3's 3,188, a 64-pound disadvantage. Unlike the winged GT3, the Touring we tested lacked the lighter carbon ceramic brake upgrade and the lighter full bucket seats, and it had additional equipment differences. Porsche provided some launch instructions: leave traction control on, limit the revs to 5,000, and release the clutch pedal quickly. We followed the guidelines, and the car simply bogged. So we turned off TC, launched again at 5,000 revolutions per minute, modulated the clutch, and consistently performed better runs. The non-turbo engine's linear nature along with its glorious noise made every shift, and the entirety of every run feel spectacular. The engine sounds sensational all the way to 9,000 revolutions per minute, and it returns amazing throttle response throughout its high-peak power band. Now it's time to brake. The 2022 Porsche 911 GT3 Touring and the Standard Edition duelled to an effective world-class draw in our 60-0 mph test, the latter winning the day at 93 feet compared to 94 feet. Both distances are neck-stretching results, and the brakes performed overall in typical Porsche track car fashion, flawlessly. Additionally, the pedal's fabulous feel tells you what the car can do throughout the exercise, and it alerts you as to when you're approaching the limit. Meanwhile, the chassis is incredibly stable when you stand on the brakes, requiring quite some effort to force it to misbehave under even the most severe deceleration. How the GT3 Touring handles. On the skid pad, both cars averaged an exceptional 1.19 grams of lateral acceleration. In our Motor Trend Figure 8 evaluation that tests a car's combined acceleration, braking, and lateral transition abilities, the regular GT3 triumphed by a small margin again, completing the lap in 22.1 seconds at 0.95 grams, average, versus the Touring's 22.5 and 0.92. Anything in the 22-second range has achieved supercar territory. So impressive was the Touring, and non-Touring, that we were compelled to mutter, "My goodness," to ourselves while driving. Things happen oh so quickly in this car, yet it's always ready to respond. The gearing is almost right for running the entire figure 8 lap in second, but you just begin to get into the rev limiter before the braking zone. So we tried doing it both ways, kept in second and hitting the limiter for a moment, and upshifting to third and back down to second for the cornering phase. As our data revealed afterward, the upshift laps were quicker because they added 3 to 4 miles per hour to our top speed on the course. The brakes were tremendous and allowed us to apply them extremely late, while remaining talkative enough to tell us precisely where the ABS threshold lay so we could avoid crossing into it and losing performance. In terms of handling balance, we found a very mild amount of understeer on the skid pad, at the nearly 1.20 gram limit, mind you, but the car feels just about perfectly balanced. And on the figure 8, you can perform the old 911 trick at the exit where you lift the throttle briefly to kill any understeer, then mash it for a little tail sliding action on your way out. It's an incredibly fun dance, and there's so much rear grip that you really must do something stupid to cause it to slide out of control. What's it gonna be? This is purely down to personal preference, and usage cases. For our money, if we're going to own a 911 GT3, then we want to own it, not just the car itself, but everything that comes with doing so. We wouldn't be concerned with looking like wannabe racers, because we'd take the car to every track day we could fit into our schedule. That's what it's made for, and its impressive downforce has massive effects on a road course and a stopwatch. There's also the fact that, rear wing or not, the suspension setup is rather stiff compared to most other 911s. Sure, you can make the car your daily driver, and we'd be happy to. But you only need to drive a GT3 for 10 minutes or so on less than perfect roads to realize its aggressive spring and damper setup won't be for everyone. A fair amount of firm vertical motion transmits to the cockpit. It's not brutal, but the chassis talks to you constantly, which more casual drivers may understandably find annoying. Something like the 911 GTS makes more sense to us if you're not a track rat. And yet, if you want all the GT3's mechanical performance capability while desiring to live a somewhat more anonymous, non-track-centric automotive life, the 2022 Porsche 911 GT3 Touring delivers stupendous performance with virtually no weaknesses. In the case of this car, least extreme is extremely relative. And now we just need to put the new GT3 RS through our ringer.